Hello ninjas and ninjettes, and welcome to another episode of the Exposure Ninja Digital Marketing Podcast. This show is all about helping you generate more leads and sales through your website and using the internet. My name's Tim, head ninja at Exposure Ninja, which is the digital agency in the UK, and I'm host of this show. In this episode, I'm extremely excited to bring to you Michael Alden. Michael is an absolute beast in the area of infomercials. So for those of you who live in the UK who don't really know what infomercials are, they're basically paid programming. So it's like a long form TV ad, basically. So you will have seen examples of them perhaps, and you might think, they're a little bit scammy. Do they really work? They definitely work. And not only do they work, they're an extremely difficult thing to get right. As you can imagine, a half-hour TV show where you're trying to sell a blender, there's a lot of areas there that you could get things wrong, and there's a lot of things to get right during that time as well. So the reason I wanted to bring Michael onto the show is to talk about the elements of the most successful infomercials. Anyone who can make money in the infomercial space where it costs like tens of thousands of dollars to even run a test, anyone who can make money in this environment, you know is worth listening to. And there's elements of successful infomercials which we can take as digital marketers, whether we're doing Facebook ads or YouTube videos, maybe you're doing live stuff, webinars, whatever, even just writing sales copy on a website. There's elements of what makes a successful infomercial that is just good marketing. So Michael's come onto the show to talk about that. So we talk about the importance of testimonials and social proof. We talk about tips for using that. We talk about how to make an effective demonstration, like an effective product demonstration, all sorts of stuff. Really interesting guy, loads and loads of great stories and some big names that he drops as well. So I really hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to head over to exposureninja.com/podcast for the show notes. And if you want some free help with your digital marketing, then you're going to see a link to our free review on that website as well. So that's exposureninja.com/podcast. Anyway, without further ado, enjoy the show with Michael Alden. Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
And I'm very excited to have you because you're from the land of infomercials, which I personally have huge respect for. It's a medium where, like Dan Kennedy always says, the audience is sat there with a remote control in their hand, ready to click you off as soon as they feel a little bit bored. So you have a very kind of low failure threshold, if you like. And you've overseen hundreds of infomercials with your company, haven't you? So firstly, what is it that you love most about the world of infomercials?
Well, I kind of grew up in this world first, literally in the call center business first. That I was taking phone calls in the customer service side of things when I was in law school, and then I went on the sales side of things. There are so many things that I love about the infomercial business. We primarily in my company and from where I was before focus on long form 30-minute infomercials. And one of the I guess we'll get into one of the first things that I love about that is that, you have 30 minutes to, tell a story and convey a message and also, problem solution type scenarios and really kind of answer most of the questions that people may have versus like a 30-second regular non-direct response commercial, or even a 30-second, 1 minute, even 2 minute, direct response commercial where there's an 800 number or a website to go to. So we try to really have a pretty detailed conversation, with the person sitting on the other side of the desk, and at least in our format, to give the consumer almost all the answers to the questions that they may have.
30 minutes seems like quite an intimidating length for anybody who's listening who maybe does a webinar or something or makes YouTube videos or Facebook Live. Anything of that length can feel a little bit scary because it's almost like any mistakes that you make along the way is going to seriously, the whole exercise is completely invalidated. So do you feel that pressure? Is that something that you love about it?
No, I mean, the pressure actually is being able to get everything in a half an hour, usually for us. In fact, we have one now that we're editing down. I mean, I'll give you a little like behind the scenes. So generally what we'll do is the infomercial itself actually is 28 minutes and 30 seconds here in the States. So that's the real time. So, for one production, we generally would shoot, everyone does it a little bit differently, but how we do it is probably no more than like 3 hours total. So what we'll do is we'll go live. Not live, but we'll, lights, camera, action. And we'll go and we'll do kind of like a first show, so to speak. Historically, the second version is usually better because the guest is warmed up, even I'm warmed up, and we kind of get into a rhythm. And then after that, we do what we call pickups, like, hey, we missed this point, we missed that point, and then it would be like me saying to you, hey, tell me a little bit about your podcast, because I know that we missed that, but tell me about your podcast and why it's important, and then you'll just go. So that's kind of how it works. And then from there, we edit it down to about 40 minutes. And then from there, we know, okay, so we got 40 minutes of what we think is kind of the best content, bring it down to 28, 30. And a lot of times the editing process, like where I'm going through it right now, where I'm editing one where I'm literally grabbing stuff that was from the end of the show and I'm moving it forward and vice versa. So like what I said, later on in the show is actually now in the beginning of the show. So that part is kind of fun to see how that all comes together.
And although it's direct response, so you're getting immediate feedback when the show's on air, I guess it's quite difficult to go and reshoot elements if you want to try a different call to action or something like that. So do you build lots of different versions of it, which you can test? Or is it just, let's just go for the best one and we're just going to use that and we're just going to run with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our format is kind of like what you and I talked, prior to this, about like, it's very spontaneous. We kind of have an idea or an outline of what we want to talk about, as far as the guest is concerned. I'm a guest on your show, and we had talked about, you and I talked earlier, like, let me tell you a little bit about how it's going to go. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Let's just make it natural, because I feel that especially in our format, it's more authentic for people so that they can get a true, honest answer. And you know what? And sometimes, you and I even said, talked about the editing process, even for your show. Sometimes we'll even flub things. Like I'll make a mistake, or if I'm doing a call to action and it's not perfect, we keep it in, unless it's a total disaster, but we'll keep it in because, we want that authenticity there. We want people to realize that it's real. To really answer your question, the answer is yes. We'll shoot multiple calls to action so that we can test different versions. And in our world, we generally go with what is called a soft offer, meaning there's no price on the screen. Another thing that I love about direct response infomercials. So it's something like, if you'd like some more information about my book, pick up the phone, give us a call. I have trained representatives standing by that can answer all of your questions. So, but there's a little lead up to that, but there's no price, right? And so we'll test one of those, and then we'll maybe test, what, folks, listen, I'm doing something really, really special today. I'm really, really excited about my book. I want to get it out to the masses. I'm actually going to give you my book absolutely free. Just pay a small processing and handling charge. So that's like the free offer. And then the other one is what we call a hard offer, which is, today, my book normally sells for $29.99, but today, because you're watching the program today, you can pick the book up today for only $14.99 plus a small processing and handling charge. Pick up the phone, give us a call. So those are kind of like the three, types that we offer. And then we're starting to actually, the times are changing, right? And so one of the things that we're doing with our calls to action is having a text option. So I also will do in the call to action, if it's, we'll say, hey, pick up the phone, give us a call. But I'll also say now, down at the bottom of the screen, there'll be a number where you can text the code. If you want to get more immediate of a response, you can just text that code to the number on the bottom of the screen, and we'll send you right to the right place you need to go. So there's that kind of new element to it that a lot of people are moving towards.
Love that. So are you running different versions of the infomercial on different stations, or like what's the deal? How are you testing these, or do you just go for the one that you think when it's been edited down makes the most sense?
There's you hear about A/B testing. Generally what we'll do is we will edit down one version of the show and what we think will be the best version of the show, and then we'll go to our media agencies and we test multiple media agencies against each other. So like we use Havas, Edge, which is one of the largest ones in the world. We'll use Mercury Media. They're pretty big here in the States. Another one called Canela. And then there's a bunch of other boutique ones that we'll use. And we'll put a budget together for each of them, let them all test it, and just really kind of get a pretty organic, response as far as the results are concerned. And so they're all competing against each other, and they know that. So they're going to try and get us the best rate. So what they'll do is they'll go back and say, okay, if we're running for instance, so we have one that we're testing right now. I wrote a book called Crushing Crypto. It's about cryptocurrency, right? And so, they'll go back and they'll look and they'll say, okay, this is an opportunity show where people can make money in the world of cryptocurrency. It's a book. We've run those types of shows, not in cryptocurrency because no one's doing that, but we've run like, real estate seminars or stock type shows, and they'll say, okay, here are the results. Let's run Mike's show on those stations and see if we get a similar response. And that's kind of how we do it. Now, I know just from marketing that like if we did a free offer, we'll get a huge response no matter what, and that, makes you feel good. Like, oh man, we just crushed it. The problem is then you got to be able to convert those into sales. And that's the hard part.
So for something like that, are you using that book as a lead generator to sell people onto some kind of course or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So for this one in particular, Crushing Crypto, what it is it's the book itself, and we're going to go up with a hard offer. So it's the model will look like this. It'll be the book. They'll pay processing and processing handling for the book. There'll be a newsletter involved. There'll be an audio newsletter involved, and then there'll be an opportunity, essentially kind of like a business opportunity, to learn how to make money within the world of cryptocurrency, which will include training and a webinar, and also an opportunity to truly be in essentially in business with me in our mining operation. So it's kind of a holistic big package because we want, for me, what I'm trying to do, especially in this world of cryptocurrency, what I'm trying to do is I just want to educate people about it first, so that people can understand it. And so if they buy the book and they do nothing, at least they'll get a pretty good overview of what's going on in the world of cryptocurrency. Now, look, and the other thing I even say in the show, I say, look, I'm not an expert. I mean, there aren't that many experts in the world of cryptocurrency right now. However, I've been studying this like I studied for the bar exam. So if you pick up the book Crushing Crypto, you're going to get a pretty good overview in a kind of I hate to use this term, like dumbed down version of really what's going on, because it's complex for people. It's hard for people to understand. So that's what I was saying. In 30 minutes, to be able to convey to people that I believe this is the biggest opportunity of their lives in 30 minutes, and explain things like the blockchain and Satoshi Nakamoto and Bitcoin and all these, it's hard to do for people that have heard it but don't understand it. So that's hard to do in 28 minutes.
For sure. It feels like every time I go to States, I always watch infomercials. I just love it. But it feels like one of the pillars of the most successful one seems to be the demonstration, whether it's like your one for Androzine with the guys talking about how it's improved their bedroom performance, or the curly-haired dude with the NutriBullet pulverizing his competitors with the exclusive cyclonic pattern. It's usually this demo that gets attention, isn't it? And there's some trick, or there's some key illustration. So what in your eyes are some of the most important boxes to tick in a demonstration?
Yeah, I mean, so it's you're looking at people's pain point, right? So like what's the problem? Where's the solution? So in the instance of like the magic bullet, which is super successful, and they've had multiple iterations of that, multiple versions of that. They're really kind of they're doing a couple different things. They are promoting a juicing lifestyle, right, and the benefits of that, and the nutritional aspects of that, and they're also showing why theirs is better than maybe the competitors out there for on a price point analysis. So, it's really, again, it's really what people in that scenario, it's what people kind of want, right? And then, but the other interesting thing about, for instance, maybe the magic bullet in particular, is that, they have a whole big retail play too, right? So they're running these long form infomercials. This is another thing that back to the original question, another thing that I love about direct response, not necessarily even long form infomercials, but so let's say you're the magic bullet, right? You have long form infomercials for the magic bullet. Okay. They're spending a bunch of money on TV with an 800 number and or a website to go to buy, their product. At the same time, though, they're also in retail. And so the exciting part about that is that traditional advertisement that doesn't have a URL on it or an 800 number on it, which now pretty much everybody has some aspect of it, but they're not really doing direct response. They're just throwing up a website because they think they have to. But in a long form infomercial setting or scenario, there's an 800 number on there. People are calling and people are buying, and they're also in retail. So they actually may be losing money on the television side of it, but what they're doing is they're really supporting the retail sales. So then the retailers like Bed Bath & Beyond or, I don't know, Target or Walmart that might be carrying their stuff, they see that, okay, these guys are spending a bunch of money in advertisement. So we're going to give them, some premium placement. We're going to give them end cap displays. We're going to give them, maybe a display right at the front of the store, maybe even at the cash register. So it's important for a direct response marketer to be able to show to a potential retailer that they're spending all this money on television to support and advertise the brand.
It feels like people tend to think of direct response and brand building as two completely, they're mutually exclusive. But actually, hearing you talk about that is clear that this type of DRTV stuff has a massive brand building component in any way. And brand building obviously doesn't really have too much of a direct response component. So I don't know, it just feels like this kind of infomercial benefits driven stuff with clear calls to action. It just feels like it would be so much more effective for the same resources.
Yeah, I mean, to be crazy not to, right? So that, I say, look, if you're going to spend money, on just, traditional quote, brand building advertising, you're insane not to put some sort of call to action on there to help offset your media costs. Because in my world, the most expensive cost that I have is in fact the media. And by the way, I'm not a retail guy. I've gone retail. I've had my products in retail. It just didn't work out for us because of the way our infomercial format looks. And I can tell you about that later. But so, if you're a traditional advertiser, if you're in business right now and you're listening to this, and whether you're a BMW or whether you're just like your local bakery shop, okay, if you're gonna put any sort of ad on television, on the radio, on the internet, okay, there has to be some sort of call to action. There has to be a reason. There has to be an ability for the consumer to buy your stuff. And a lot of people may disagree with that, but they're just straight up wrong. I've been doing this long enough to know that putting something there that gives the consumer the ability to buy is going to, one, it will make the consumer happy because they're like, all right, cool, I like that, I'm going to buy it right now, right? So there's a lot of instant psychology where we want to buy it like right away. There's a reason why candy bars at a grocery store are still at the right where you're cashing out, because it's a spontaneous, emotional, quick buy because you're hungry and you're like, oh shit, there's a candy bar there, I'm going to get it. If they didn't know that, they wouldn't put they would put candy bars somewhere else. I mean, that is almost in a way an example of direct response. You're looking right at it. You came into the grocery store to buy other things, but you're checking out and you got lettuce and broccoli and everything else, but you pick up a Snickers bar because it's right there. So that's why they do it. And it's the same thing. You want to be able to give the consumer that instant ability to buy and at the same time build your brand. I give the example, I go back to Barack Obama, the president, so our former president. And this is awesome. I tell people, I said, love him or hate him, forget about your political beliefs. It doesn't matter. Barack Obama, and this is true, you can look it up, it's easy. During his first election, he ran 3 1-hour infomercials on him and his campaign. And on the bottom of the screen, there was a website to go to donate, to raise money. That ultimately, in my belief, is really what got him elected. And he did it. He ran it in October, 2 weeks before the election, and raised a ton of money and got a huge amount of awareness. He was able to tell a story. By the way, they were $1 million a piece. So he was able to tell a story about him and about his campaign and about his vision to the entire country all at once 2 weeks before, and raise a bunch of money. So that is the power of an infomercial, man. People, like back in the day, infomercials used to be these crazy contraptions and, Billy Mays screaming and yelling and people spraying black polish on their head for hair, to give the illusion that you have hair. It's not like that anymore. We're talking Fortune 500 big name companies that are getting involved in this because they see the power of direct response. Even in this day that we're living in today, my daughter barely watches TV. She watches everything on her iPhone. So that's kind of scary for me, right? But we're changing, we're evolving anyway. Television isn't going anywhere. Cable isn't going anywhere. It's just you need to now, in the world of direct response, have to have a fully integrated marketing plan behind everything. You can't just rely on TV anymore like you used to be able to 10, 15 years ago.
And it feels to me like as we start moving over to things like Facebook with video ads and Instagram video ads as well, quite a lot of the time now, the video ads that you'll see that are most successful, that keep showing up again and again, they're taking a lot of elements from infomercials. There's a demonstration, there's testimonials and social proof, there's very clear offer, very clear pricing, calls to action. And whether it's like the face peel thing where you see all the little bits of crap coming out the pores on the skin, or the latest cat or dog toy or something like that, they're actually basically just super, super short form infomercials, really.
Exactly it. And you are 100% correct. Do you know who Ty Lopez is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So that in my opinion, that's exactly what he's doing. Okay. So in fact, he just tweeted out, he just snapped out an image of my book, Blueprint to Business. So I was excited about that, and I could tell you how that happened. But what in my opinion, what he's doing is in fact what I'm doing on television. And what gives him a little bit more freedom is there is no time limit, there is no time constraint. So I mean, I've actually seen, I've had Grant Cardone on my podcast and been on his as well, and I watched Grant Cardone essentially do a 3-hour infomercial, on Facebook Live, and it was just him showing people how to make money in real estate and what he believes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, hey, by the way, if you're interested, you can just visit my website / free video, whatever it is. Ty Lopez is like a master at that. He is essentially running. I mean, it is direct response, and we don't have to call them infomercials if people somehow feel offended with that. But that's really what it is, and he does a great job. And what I like about Ty, and I've said this before publicly, I was kind of hating on him in the beginning because I was like, how real is this guy, et cetera, et cetera. The fact of the matter is, he's a master marketer, and he is, fairly authentic, at least from what I can tell. I haven't met him, in person yet. We're trying to figure that whole part out now. They potentially go out there and get on his podcast, but from what I can tell, he is a master marketer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that impresses me most about him is just the sheer volume of stuff that he's putting out and the scale at which he's doing it. I don't think we've seen anything like it. He just seemed to, I know every overnight success is years in the making, but he seemed to come pretty much from nowhere and hasn't really relented since then. It's incredible. So how did you, go on, you dropped the hook there and I'm going to bite. How did you manage to get your book featured in one of Ty's snaps?
Yeah, well, so my last book, Blueprint to Business, Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestseller, all my books are. And so I've just watched him, really kind of promote the book business, and he's got his thing called Mentor Box. And, when he's constantly talking about, how he, reads all these books and he's got all these books in his garage. It's brilliant in a way. Like, I was kind of hating on him. It was like in his garage, he's got all these books above the Ferrari, the Lambo, the Rolls Royce. And I'm like, who the fuck puts their books in the garage? And I'm sure if you talk to him on the side, he'd be like, yeah, of course I did that. Of course I put it in there so I can show you all the shit in my garage. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant now that more that I think about it, after I stop hating on him, I'm as honest as it gets. I'm as real as it gets. And, you try not to hate on people, but I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome. So I just see how powerful he is and how he's everywhere. So what I did is I just started sending him, I got his address and I've tried to connect with him through a bunch of other people. That's usually how it all works. Like, I know friends of friends that actually have his number and all that other stuff. And I've tried to do a little bit of that, but I actually just sent him my book every single day for like a week straight. Every day, one at a time. By the way, that was in August. Today he posted an image of the book. So, that's the type of stuff that it also takes, when we're kind of going outside of the world of direct response. But in a way, it's advertising. It's exactly what I was doing. I spent money to overnight a book, to send it FedEx, to make sure that he saw it. Now I did the same thing with Gary Vaynerchuk. I did it with Tim Ferriss. I did it with Howard Stern. I'm a big Howard Stern fan. I've been on Stern, been interviewed by them, and they don't really know me. But so I've done some things because I see the marketing power of guys like Howard Stern, of guys like Tim Ferriss, of guys like Gary V. So, after I sent my book 1 million times to Gary V, I ended up at an event in Jersey, an intimate event with about 50 people, a wine tasting, because Gary's big into wine. So, and I am relentless, and so ultimately, he posted, and then for even prior to that, prior to him, snapping out an image of Blueprint to Business, I watched one of the calls to action that he had was this, hey, do you know any Wall Street Journal, USA Today, New York Times bestselling authors? And I said, well, hey, I am. I'd love to come on. And, initially there wasn't a response, and then there was a little bit of response, and then we're kind of like negotiating on how it's going to work and all this other stuff. And I'm like, look, man, like, let's go on. I'll come on your podcast and we'll just spit fire, man. I'm like, I guarantee you that your listening audience will enjoy what I have to say. And so I'll give you another example of that. So Rude Jude, he has a show on SiriusXM satellite called The All Out Show. It's a huge show on SiriusXM. I follow him on Snapchat. The guy's a nut. Jude Angelini's his name. But he's also written 2 books. And I read them. It's more of almost like a how can I describe it? It's almost like his diary in a way, and it's really just raunchy. And I don't know if you've read Assholes Finish First by Tucker Max, but it reminds me of that a little bit. And so I reached out to him. I was like, look, man, I saw through kind of his craziness and his lifestyle. And I said, you know what? You've done some really cool, successful things. Even though you're a nut, I'd love to have you on my podcast first. So I had him on my podcast and I interviewed him different than anyone else would have because he is this character, but I interviewed him as more like the author and the business person. He loved it. And then he asked me to go on his show on SiriusXM. So I flew all the way out to LA, from Boston just to be on that show because it was a couple days before the release of my book. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have just kept hammering him and trying to get him on my podcast. And I'm sure you probably have similar instances with you and your podcast, trying to just get people, and you just can't stop, because you know what I mean? Like at some point, someone's going to say yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing that's kind of running through this is the power of celebrity and the credibility that being featured somewhere like Ty and a Snap can get you. It's like automatic exposure to his market. And going back to the whole infomercial thing, this is also a tool that lots of infomercials use, isn't it? They'll typically be a guest expert or a celebrity, whether it's like a gossip mag celebrity or whether it's actually a kind of celebrity in their field, I guess, where it's someone who has maybe like the androzine guy, where you've got was it the doctor or someone who
right? Yeah. So I have John Abdo, who's been on TV for years. He had this. His real name is Abdo, and his kind of claim to fame, he had this product called the Abdoer. It's kind of funny, but his real name's Abdo. So he had this kind of fitness device. And he is a former Olympic trainer, and he wanted to be an Olympian himself. And he's a bodybuilder, and he's been in that world. So he's always been into health and nutrition. And he took steroids back in like the 80s. He talks about it, and he screwed up his endocrine system, which basically left him with the inability to perform in the bedroom. And so he tells that story on national TV, man. I mean, the guy's literally sold billions of dollars. In my world, he's kind of like a celebrity, right? And so when he approached us, because we're really good at supplements, and I remember where I was. I was actually at the Hilton Hotel in San Diego Bay, and we're in his room. It was just a regular small room, and he had an easel with a tripod, and he was like, kind of pitching us and showing us on why androzine was great and all these other things. And I remember and kind of sitting there, it was like surreal for me because I've been seeing this guy on TV for years, and I was like, this guy's selling us really hard on why we should put androzine on TV. And I hadn't realized, but everybody else had said no. Everybody had said no. And the reason why we decided to do what we would call a male sexual health product, and a lot of people call it a male enhancement product, there's a lot of just charlatans out there. There's a lot of bad actors out there in the world of male enhancement. There's a lot of just ridiculous claims that are made out there. And I describe them, it's just icky. It's just gross. I mean, you see these things on porn sites and all that other stuff. So I want, when he told his story, I'm like, there's a reason why Viagra is so big. There's a reason why Cialis is so big, because there's a need for it, right? And so I'm like, all right, I think we can present this show as John Abdo, the expert, kind of back to what you were saying, John Abdo, the expert, pseudo celebrity, to tell his story. And I think it's going to resonate with the masses. Now, to kind of expand on the celebrity aspect of it, my world, I've had some celebrities on some stuff before and they haven't worked. See, for us, it's more about the story and less about the celebrity. When you look at like an infomercial, like Guthy Renker will do, when you have Proactive, I mean, they've really leveraged celebrities. They've used everyone you can imagine in the world of celebrity because who are they marketing towards? Proactive is marketing towards, teenagers who are trying to, look good. And so who are they using? They're using celebrities who look good. And the celebrities, like the one I can think of off the top of my head is like Adam Levine. Like Adam Levine would show, a close-up of him with acne, right? And so that's kind of powerful, especially when it's, the lead singer of Maroon 5. Or, I remember once with P. Diddy, and same thing. They would show like a close-up of him, and then you get the women that do the same thing. So celebrity for them is great, and it makes sense. For me, for what we're doing, at least right now, it doesn't make sense. It's just about the story and about the problem solution.
I guess the great thing about those proactive, I remember seeing the Katy Perry one, and
Yeah.
the great thing about proactive is they're not just using the celebrity, but they're also using the story, aren't they? And saying, and it's really impacting my confidence, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then cuts to her on stage, flawless skin. There's a proactive, go and buy it. It's like, it's a killer combo, isn't it?
It's a multi-billion-dollar brand. I mean, they've been on TV for like 20 years. It's crazy how successful they are. And so, and people joke around. They say, Guthrie Renker should just be called Proactive. But they've taken, their first infomercial was interesting is for the book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich, and it's a great story. And actually, in one guy you probably heard of that was featured in that, his name is Tony Robbins. It was the first time Tony was on TV. He just did a quick little testimonial about that. And then Guthrie Renker they liked him so much, they took him and they put him on TV in an infomercial for a product called Anthony Robbins The Edge. And then listen to this even more. It gets even crazier. And then there was a guy that Anthony Robbins in The Edge featured. He featured this guy in there. His name was Alex Guerrero. And Alex Guerrero is like this holistic medicine, Chinese medicine dude. My old company reached out to him and we did an infomercial with him with a product called Supreme Greens. The company ended up getting sued for it for a whole host of reasons. But the reason why I bring it up is because it's very topical, because right now, Alex Guerrero is Tom Brady's like guru. Like he's the guy, right? So that all stems, all of it, from an infomercial.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You mentioned Tony being a testimonial, and that's something which is, you can't miss the testimonials and social proof elements of infomercials. Pretty much every infomercial I've ever seen is just rammed to the rafters with testimonials. Why is that? Why is there such a high volume? And when you're putting these together, how much are you thinking about the demographics and the audiences that make up the testimonials?
Yeah, again, so what you're trying to do there in that scenario is you're trying to appeal to the average person, right? Like, they're talking to me. You know what I mean? It's not just these two guys trying to sell me stuff. It's, Betsy Smith in rural Oklahoma who has the same problem. And this is how, she took this product and it solved that problem. So that's that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to really just relate to people, and the average everyday people. And it's a powerful way to do things depending on your format. Now, I've used testimonials in my formats, and it didn't work as well, because in my format, it's two talking heads. It's usually me and someone else, and we're talking, and I let the other guy just tell a story versus having the other people. I don't know why it doesn't work for us. I mean, sometimes we just don't know. Like, that's the crazy thing. It's like, we'll test things, and I'll tell you, man, like, I've shot hundreds of infomercials in my career, and once when I was a lawyer, and then here, and we've only had a handful that have really been successful. But there's been dozens and dozens where like, this is fucking huge, man. Like, this is going to be the biggest thing ever. By the way, I hope you don't mind. I swear here and there, I'm from Boston, but
that's fine.
So like this is going to be the biggest thing ever, and then you test it and it just totally bombs. And you're like, why? I mean, you just don't know why, and it just kind of is what it is, And then the worst part, though, is then you have these ones like we're testing one right now, where it's like right in the middle. It's like it like kind of works, and so then we're trying to figure out like, why does it kind of work, and how is there something we can do to tweak it? Like you had mentioned earlier, go back, edit it, put something in, take something out, replace this, that, change the offer, whatever. And that happens a lot of times. People do that. And, there's a lot of stories where you test something and someone was so invested in it that they just couldn't give up on it. So they just made all these tweaks, and then the 10th version of it was a home run. We don't do it like that. We test them. We maybe will tweak them here and there, and then we're done. If it doesn't work, it's just kind of like how we do business. But testimonials, like I'll give you another example. So in the Crushing Crypto one, the book I'm talking about. So I got involved in this world of cryptocurrency a while ago, and I've been screaming about it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, just as a to my friends, really. I'm not selling anybody anything. Right? I'm just like, look, guys, please pay attention to cryptocurrency. I know you might think it's not real or whatever. I believe it is. I've hung around with billionaires, 100 millionaires, some of the most influential people in the world. I'm telling you, it's real. You need to pay attention to this. That's basically my message, and has been my message, right? And so throughout the recent months, I've had literally friends of mine that were like, I would say to them, look, I say, look, I need you to buy my book. And they say, oh, like I'm broke. And I say, I tell you what, listen, I'll give you the money to buy my book, but I just need you to buy the book. I can't do that. Why can't I'm going to give you the money. I just need you to buy the book. And they can't do it. Right. And that same person then has reached out to me and said, man, I listened to what you said about cryptocurrency. I learned how to get Bitcoin for free. I bought some cryptocurrency and now I'm up over 100%. Thank you, Mike. And then I'm like, oh my God, like this, in all the things I've ever done in my 10 years here and another almost 10 years at my previous company, it's never happened where truly my friends have reached out to me and said, we want in. And the reason this ties back to testimonials. So when I shot the infomercial for cryptocurrency, Crushing Crypto, we did do the testimonials before, so I could refer back to them. So it's the first time I've really invested a lot of time into the testimonials, because it is important, especially with what's going on in the world of cryptocurrency. I know it's different everywhere, but it truly is worldwide. And so like I want to. What we're talking about, I want to be able to relate to people who don't understand it. So I have a kind of a cool cross section of testimonials that I'm going to put in this infomercial. And by the way, haven't tested it, have no idea if it's going to work, but we hope it does, obviously.
I guess I noticed watching the Androzine one. Another thing I noticed, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but one of them was his Dan, who got sick using prescription medication, talking about how this was a solution. So I'm guessing that by doing that, you're kind of answering possible objections that people will have. And, someone sat there thinking, yeah, this won't work for me because I've tried prescription stuff and that didn't work. So here's someone who's actually been through your specific situation and had a great result. So do you have a list of objections that you want to knock out at various points through the script when you're doing something like this?
Well, I mean, you are really good at what you do. I want to tell you that, because you are definitely home. I'm seriously, like you really do know what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, the answer is yes. And so sometimes, by the way, I'll give you an example, like with John Abdo and everyone else, like I refuse to talk to them before. They might think I'm crazy, but I don't want to have a conversation with them before, because I want them to tell their story on camera. We do pre-production though, where we will have others interview them, and then I'll listen to that. So that, and the reason why I do that is because if I heard something in that pre-interview that I liked and they didn't say it on set, I will refer to it as if we did have that conversation. I'll say something like, John, earlier in the green room, you had mentioned that, that Viagra causes all these serious side effects. Tell us a little bit about that and why, Androzine's different. Because he hadn't said it yet, but I had heard it on the pre-interview. So a lot of times those objections will just naturally be there. And I, in my head as well, I tell people this, kind of like what you've already done. I tell people, look, when I go into an infomercial, I know more about their product or them than they do. So I can have a really great conversation about, whatever it is, and it is natural. And I'll spend, and that's the other part that hurts too, because like I'll spend weeks sometimes just preparing, and then you sit down and you feel like you've created gold, and then thing just doesn't work. So yeah, we do try to overcome those objections before they do call in or go to the website, because there's a lot of reasons why. One, we want to get them to call, and then two, if they do call, there's a cost involved there, right? So my second biggest cost in that scenario is my call center cost. Now I have my own call center. I actually recently sold it, so I still generate a ton of calls, and we send them to other call centers, and so there's a cost there. So we want to be able to have a good experience as quickly as we can with the customer on the phone, because there's a cost.
Last thing I want to ask you about, I want to be respectful of your time. I've absolutely loved this, by the way, but is offer and pricing. So you'll often get like a bundle of stuff where you got the DVDs and you've got the books and the CDs, or you'll get the NutriBullet and it's shown on its rock with all the stuff around it. Like, why is it that people tend to sell bundles of stuff rather than just one single product?
Yeah, how do they do that, right? I mean, like the one I love, it's not on anymore, is Ronco. It was the knife one, and it's just like he just keep giving you more knives and knives. It's like he's gonna get like a truckload of knives showing up to your house for $19.99. Like, how do they do that? I have no idea how they do that. So again, it's the perceived value really is what we're talking about, right? So you want to be able to give the most amount of value for, that initial purchase, because the life cycle too is important. If the customer is happy, good marketers understand that they really want to develop the rapport, the relationship with that customer. So if that initial experience is good and they get a bunch of stuff and they get some cool products like, some of these knives that are out there, like, or you mentioned, like, I love the Magic Bullet or I have the Ninja, the blender. I love it. I think it's a great product. There are some shit products out there, but most of them this day and age, you can't, versus 10, 20 years ago, because of social media, like you can't have a bad product, especially on TV now, and hope to be on for a long time because social media will just crush you, right? So the bundling thing, it's about that. It's about that added value that you want to give, you want to give to the customer because you actually may be losing money on that initial offer, and a lot of times you are, and then it's about the upsell, right? So now you got them on the phone. And they said yes to the initial offer, and you're going through, and then it's about, oh, okay, great. Well, you got this. Well, what about this? And hey, did you, you may not have caught this on the show, but John Abdo mentioned that, that you should try this. And so that's really, you're trying to, increase the average ticket. But at the same time, it's as a good marketer and someone who's, been in business as long as I have, it's a fine line. You don't want to just sell them the kitchen sink and then be done with them. You want to sell them something that's going to work for them right then and there so that later on you can then come back to them and say, hey, I'm glad you liked Androzine and Androphase because that's one of the upsells we have with it. We have this other great product or even we'll do like a completely different cross sell. Because if you develop a great rapport with the customer, to go back to them and sell them something totally outside of that category doesn't seem that odd. For instance, like we have a pet product called Pavites, right? Love the product. And I'm not going to pitch it, but so like we'll reach out to those customers that we've been selling to for years and say, hey, look, we were just looking at the statistics, and here in the United States, like 50% of the American households have a dog or a cat. Do you happen to have a dog or a cat? Yeah, great. Well, you know what? Because you bought Androzine from us, we want you just to try this for free. It's normally $120 because you're a valued customer. When we try for free, you just pay, processing and handling. And if you like it, Mr. Customer, then we will ship it to you next month. And so then it would be like on an auto ship on a continuity basis. And so that's kind of the reason why. In the front end, give them as much as you can. That's a good value. Try not to lose money as the marketer. And then it's about that long-term, what a lot of people will call that lifetime value of the customer.
How do you decide pricing? Because sometimes it feels like we're going for a premium price compared to what people could buy otherwise. And sometimes it might be you're losing money on the front end. Like how do you decide that? Is it all about you just look at the whole thing, the number of upsells that you can get in and do a big picture, or do you test it or what?
Yeah, it's great. And again, what I love, another thing that I love about is how we do things. I love what I do, man. You know what I mean? I really do. I got to say, I will say this, that, the products that I sell now, like supplements in the States in a long form infomercial, it's a nightmare. It's not easy to do. You're dealing with all sorts of regulatory bodies, and it's just no matter how well we do it, it's just like we're constantly just being like, I'm just keep getting kicked, and and it's a pain. And I love supplements too. I'm a big dude. I've always been a big dude. I've been taking supplements my whole life. It's changed my life. I've seen it change other people's lives, from pain to from male sexual health to psychological depression, everything. I've just seen it happen, and I love it. But I do love this business as well. So as far as pricing is concerned, it's interesting. So I'll give you an example. Androzine, all right, I'll go back to Arthro-D. This is the joint health one. When we first started, I was naive, young, didn't really. I mean, I thought I knew the business, and so we had a package for Arthro-D, which was a buy two get one free. Right? You buy two, you get one free, so it's a total of 3-month supply. That package was $119. This was when I first started almost 10 years ago. Right, that same product I'm now selling for $119 for one bottle.
Whoa.
And so you go back and say, man, how much money? And you know what changed? Nothing changed. and so people say, well, I didn't do that because I could. I did that because I actually had to. Because really what was going on was when I was doing that, because I was young and the phones were ringing and I had almost 200 employees, we're doing millions and millions in sales. Everything's great. But at the end of the week, I was always struggling paying my bills. I'm like, why can't I pay the bills? Because I'm a lawyer for a reason. I didn't have an accountant when I first started. It was just like 5 of us in an office, and it just blew up. So, but I'm just psyched because I see all this money coming in. But at the same time, we weren't making money. We were losing like $200,000 a week. And so I'm like, and so then I finally brought an accountant, and he's like looking at everything. He's like, you got to make some major changes. So we changed the packages. So the buy two get one free is now, it's like two something, with shipping and handling. So we essentially doubled the price. That's kind of how you determine it. You have to look at your return on investment. You have to look at what we call MER, which stands for media efficiency ratio, and you just have to see if it's profitable. And if it's not profitable, then you can't do it. And that's hard for me as an entrepreneur. I fall in love with things, and I talk about that in Blueprint to Business about like, man, it's so hard to really step back and say, all right, this just doesn't make sense, and we need to move on or make a change, especially when you have so much psychological time and emotion invested in it. So in the infomercial world, with a back to the soft offer scenario where there is no price on the screen, you can literally change the price on the fly. So I have the ability to say, you know what, I changed my script. Like when we talk about A/B test, I can do A through Z test like instantly. So you know what, change it for this one, change it for that one, change it for this one, change it for that one, change the upsell, move it around, add an upsell, no upsell, no auto ship. Let's see what happens. And then you kind of then you go back and say, all right, great. Let me give you one quick example before we go is that, there are a lot, again, bad actors in this world that they'll put people on an auto ship or what we call a free trial. They'll bang their card, before they said they would, or they'll bang the card for more. And the credit card companies are really coming down hard on it, and they should. Unfortunately, I'm in that world and I get caught up in it as if I was one of them. I'm a lawyer by trade. I started out in this business in customer service. I am a consumer. I've been in business for 10 years. We've been recognized by Inc. I've been in, Yahoo Finance, CNBC, entrepreneur. So like, we're like a legit business. Unfortunately, a lot of bad actors out there, right? So 50% of our orders are in fact a free trial, or at least they were, right? And because we know how to make them work, right? And so I'll tell you the numbers. 50% of the people that actually take a free trial, in other words, they just pay for shipping and handling, they just cancel. And it's just no matter what we do. I've done everything you can imagine, no matter what we do. But the other 50%, they stay on. They might stay on for a month. They might stay on for 2 months. They might stay on for 3 months. So now we're like, all right, cool. So now we got this, this customer relationship. Credit card processors, as I'm talking to you right now, are becoming increasingly, their risk tolerance is really tightening up. So they don't want to take that type of business, like my type of business. So in order for me to stay alive, I said, okay, let's just get rid of free trials. I'm going to get rid of 50% of my orders. I'm just going to change it on the script. And so what we did is like with we just tested it. We just did it with one of our call centers. But we're still running them with the other one, right? So we test one of the call centers. It looks pretty much the same. All right, let's change it to the other one. See what happened. Looks pretty much the same. Let's change it to the third one. Looks pretty much the same. Following week, it dips. It looks horrible. I'm like, whoa, everybody calm down. Let's relax. Let's give it another week and just see. And we give it another week and it's about the same. So that's another reason why the pricing in the direct response world in a soft offer scenario, again, no price on the screen, is awesome. And by the way, this can apply also to, I know so many people are like digital marketers, right? Where there's this essentially same thing can apply. And I've seen it apply as well, where there is no price until you get to the very end. That might piss some people off too. Like if they, so you kind of turn away some people, and it's easier to have that conversation and to overcome that objection. I think when you're talking to a human versus just on a website, so they just, X out. It's kind of the reason why I do still like being able to talk to people, even though it's expensive, because you can overcome that objective and say, yeah, I understand that, Mr. Customer, but, and then you just kind of, you move forward. So that's kind of how we come up with the pricing. And then obviously the basics of just basic economics, right? I mean, like, all right, so if the product costs us this, then we have to sell it for this.
Michael, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I could listen to you talk about infomercials all day. I love it. I love the medium. I love it. It's so hardcore. It's so.
But in the UK, man, it's not the same, right? Because we tried to run a long form one for my Arthur D, and we actually were running for a little while. I had a call center there. I also, it's funny, I essentially gave myself a lesson because we had a call center in Scotland, which is different, obviously, right, than the UK, and so the dialect was different, like everything was, and we're like, why can't we close these people? Like it's the same. And one guy was like, no, it's not the same. And so what we did is we started taking the calls here for the show that was running in the UK. But the interesting thing about how you guys do it over there is you guys don't have the First Amendment over there, and you don't have essentially the FTC, but you guys do it differently where It's the stations that are on the hook if something goes wrong. So the stations are super, super strict about what you can and can't say on there. So we ran for about a year, and then I think we literally got one complaint, and then that was it. Boom, done.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't seem to have the same. Yeah, we have like QVC, but not really. I don't really see too many infomercials. Michael, where can people find out more about you? How can they check out your books? And what would be your suggestions of top infomercials that they should go and watch?
I love the last one. So you can find me on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's at Mike Alden, Mikealden 2012, at Mike Alden 2012. You can also find me on my website. It's michael-alden.com. And my books are there. My books are available literally everywhere. Amazon, Books A Million, barnesandnoble.com. And the top infomercials, man, I tell you, I mean, I'd have to say Androzine and Arthur D, my two big ones. Or actually, when you see, you know what I love too about the Crushing Crypto one that I'm talking about is that it is a book. The cryptocurrency is worldwide. So we're excited about this because we can actually take this worldwide. Although even some countries like Canada or even the UK, again, because you guys don't have the First Amendment over there, you guys look at books a little bit differently than we do, but it's a little bit easier. So check out Crushing Crypto book as well. That'll be out there in the very near future.
Sweet. So we'll link up all those in the show notes. Michael, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you. It was fun.